Ganda ng bago setup natin.
Oh, sir. Sir, opening statement ka ba? Or election na siya? Mag-opening statement ka?
Tell me about my US trip.
Sige. Itatanong ko, sir, kaya how's your working visit?
We'll start with that siguro.
Sige.
Hi. Hello everyone. Kamusta na? How are you? Some picture mo yun, tumatalon ka. Is that with your husband? Sa beach? Fiancé. Tama. Chismis
Malapit na,
agad.
sir, yan.
Chismis
Mag-misis.
agad. Oo nga, chismis agad. Hello guys.
Okay, let's start na, sir.
Ayan, sure. So unang-una, magandang umaga po sa inyo lahat. It's nice to see you all again after a really grueling working visit to Washington. First of all, siguro i-report ko lang po sa inyo na nagagagaling na po natin ng Washington, D.C. for a series of meetings with U.S. legislators and government officials to discuss strengthening U.S.-Philippine partnership and cooperation. In line of what, of course, the President stated during his working visit to the United States. Bali, follow-up lang po ito sa working visit ng ating Pangulo na we doubled up our efforts with senators and congressmen. And during that meeting, during the visit, I was able to meet Undersecretary of State for Political Affairs, Victoria Nuland. We had a very successful discussion there on how to strengthen Philippine-US relations, hindi lamang sa aspeto ng defense, and of course, but most importantly, the economic side to it. How we can expand more economic activities between our two countries. Well, aside from GSP Plus, ang pinag-uusapan nga nila is free trade agreement between the Philippines. Kasi GSP Plus, maraming bansa yun eh. That's about 30 countries it's one bill that will include 30 countries, which is hitting a snag right now in Congress dahil alam mo yung mga Amerikano, they're leaning more to America first. So, but they're willing to do certain trade, as for our discussion, looking favorably at certain trading partners like the Philippines because we are key strategic allies. So, ganda na balita na yun. I met with Senator Mike Lee of Utah, Senator Ted Cruz of Texas, Senator Tim Scott of South Carolina. At the same time, we also met with Congressman Gary Palmer of Alabama and Congressman James Moylan of Guam. And I have good news for that meeting. We also met with Congressman Michael Lawler of New York, Congressman Radewagen of American Samoa. We also met with the president or the head of the Philippine-American Caucus, which is Congressman Robert Scott of Virginia. And we also met Congressman Gregorio Sablan of Northern Mariana Islands, who happens to have a wife that's from the Philippines. Yung asawa niya ay taga Pampanga. Kaya alam niya lahat ng pagkain ng Pampanga nung binanggit ko. So, we continued our meetings and discussions. We also extended a hand of invitation to them for the APPF. Matagal nang hindi sumasama ang U.S. contingent sa Asia-Pacific Parliamentary Forum, and hopefully, there will be one or two congressmen from the U.S. that will attend this particular forum. It's going to be us who will host. The Senate will host together with our co-host, the House of Representatives. This will be on November 23 up to 26. So magandang hakbang yan kung pumunta sila dito at makasama natin. So we also met in the Pentagon for the first time. Napapanood natin yan sa pelikula, yung Pentagon. I also had a meeting with Deputy Assistant Secretary for Defense, Lindsay Ford, and we discussed full support for the AFP modernization. And also we discussed with other key intelligence officials on the, of course, the situation in the Pacific, this side of the Pacific. We also, during those several meetings, we came up with a certain number of measures that we need to amend and support. Of course, for the defense side, yung PDIDA, which is the Philippine Defense Industry Development Act, the United States wants us to strengthen our defense manufacturing capabilities in our country, in situ, within the Philippines. And they're willing to convince their arms manufacturers to move shop to the Philippines, to partner with Filipino companies na dito na gagawin ito mga defense materials na ito, which sa tingin ko ay pinakamaganda dahil syempre madadagdagan natin ng trabaho ang ating mga kababayan and mga parts at mga pangangailangan na pwedeng i-source dito sa Pilipinas, gagawin na lang po dito sa ating bansa kaysa mamimili po tayo ng armas na kailangan ng AFP galing pa sa abroad. And part of that also is we need to amend the modernization law of the AFP, particularly on the portion on brand new. Baka kailangan na natin palitan ng modern equipment, and then we also have to amend the procurement law because cheapest is not the best for military equipment. Kasi kung cheapest, ay baka naman bumagsak ang eroplano pag binili natin pinakamura. At the same time, brand new is not necessarily practical para sa ating bansa dahil yung apat na bagong eroplano, alam niyo naman ang Air Force po under the Horizon 3 ay gusto pong mag-modernize na kanilang Air Force fleet. 4 brand new airplanes ay katumbas ng 6 or 12, one squadron of slightly used airplanes from friendly countries or allied countries like, for example, the Netherlands. The Netherlands want to sell their F-16s, which are slightly used, only, I think, 10 years old, 12 years old. Sa aircraft body, bagong-bago pa yan, because they want to replace all their airplanes with F-35 Raptors, yun yung mga bagong stealth fighters ng Estados Unidos. So gusto po nilang mag-deal, makipag-deal sa Pilipinas. And the price of the 12 is katumbas ng 2 o 3 bago. So I think it is something to look into that the military, as long as it is goes through the proper testing, proper, of course, mga what you call product testing and what you call review, sa tingin ko, pwede na bilhin ng ating Air Force yun. At least magamit pa natin yung sukle dahil mas mura sa ibang prioridad ng ating gobyerno. So these are some of the bills and what to say. So I mentioned the PDIDA, we mentioned the modernization, and meron pang isa. Kasama na sa modernization, may isa pa nakalimutan ko. That was 3. No, I have senior moments, so my apologies. So yun, it was quite a successful working visit, and I'm looking forward to more extensive cooperation with the United States, not just sa defense, but also on the issue of economic upliftment of our people. Alam mo, lahat ng kausap ko dyan, talagang no-brainer sa unang-una nagpapasalamat sila sa amin, sa akin. Nagpapasalamat sila sa amin, dalawa ni Senator Tolentino, sa dagdag na cooperation, added cooperation and friendship. Balik, anong muli sila, balik sigla ang US-Philippine relationships. And because of that, lahat po sila, no, they are all in agreement. They're all in agreement that we need to do more economic development for the Philippines. Ang sabi nga nila, yung mga American companies na gustong lumipat galing sa China ay dapat pumunta sa Pilipinas. Yan ang pangako nila sa amin, na they will try to convince their counterparts in the business sector that if they're moving out of China to look in the Philippines for investment opportunities. And the good news I mentioned about Guam, yung Senator, Congressman James Moylan of Guam, matagal ko na sa kaibigan, I met him here as a member of the state legislature of Guam, and then we became close friends, and then now Congressman na po siya ng Guam. Many bases of the United States in Okinawa are closing shop and moving to Guam. And because they're moving to Guam, Congressman Moylan is insisting to the U.S. government that they hire Filipinos to construct the new bases. And they're looking at 10,000 workers, 10 to 15,000 workers, Filipino workers, to go to Guam and help build up the bases because they need to build the bases as soon as possible. Ang ganda po ng balitang yun. Kaya ako ituwan-tuwa kay Congressman Moylan on this particular issue. Sabi ko sa kanya, pag sinabi niyo 10,000, sigurado 30,000 ang available pupunta dyan. Of course, they'll discuss how to get the H1 visa. I think H1 or H2 visa. It's a working visa. And they're trying to get from the State Department approval to hasten the proceedings para magawa itong mga bases nila sa Guam by Filipino workers. Wala po silang workers, konting tao lang po sa Guam, hindi po nila kaya. They need about 10 to 15,000. So that's the good news that we're bringing to the table today. And hopefully, I'm working with the Office of Congressman Moylan of Guam to make this happen. And we get at least 10 to 15,000 workers, Filipino workers, to work in these bases in Guam.
So sir, congratulations. Dahil
Salamat.
naging fruitful and successful ang inyong 3 weeks ba na working visit sa US?
Yes. May halo na bakasyon.
Okay, and as you promised, you are now ready to answer all our questions on different issues.
Ang talakayin, of course.
This is our second Kapihan, sir, after nabuhayin namin itong Kapihan sa Senado.
Yes, I forgot. The other bill, the third bill, was an anti-cybercrime law. Because they were pointing out that there were several facilities in the Philippines that are prone to cybercrime tapping, yung internet tapping and hacking. So sabi nila we have to strengthen it. Our anti-cybercrime law is more of yung crimes against individuals. Di ba may anti-cybercrime law tayo, yung pag blackmail, ganyan. Hanggang dyan yung atin, yung gusto natin gawin, yung anti-cybercrime law on a large scale. On a large scale. Yung mga companies, government facilities na sina-cyber hack. Dapat mayroon tayong batas on how to, number one, compel government agencies to make sure that they have a strong anti-cybercrime program. Para sa ganun, and also oversight of Congress and government agency, or in this case, the ICT, to make sure that these government agencies are secure with their information, as well as compelling, for example, telecommunications companies, Globe, Smart, Dito, and internet providers, to make sure that these internet providers also have a strong anti-cybercrime measure or hardware, software. So yan ang gagawin nating
So, sir,
priority din.
will you be the one to file that bill?
Me and Senator Tolentino will be committed. Nag-commit po kami ni Senator Tolentino na i-file po itong bill na to. I already enticed or asked my staff to prepare these measures. But humingi din ako ng copy sa kanila. I asked them to give us a copy from other countries. I think they're going to give us copies from Scandinavian countries na napakaganda ng kanilang legislation when it comes to anti-cybercrime measures.
And now, Senate President Zubiri is ready to answer all our questions on different issues. Una muna, sir, after signing the enrolled bill of MIFBL, what is now the status of that bill?
Siguro maganda let me clear lang the air on allegations of tampering. Maganda siguro wala pang masyado na bibigay ng maganda at klarong explanation dito. Okay. Unang-una, there's no such thing as tampering. There was never a plan to tamper. There was no sinister move to tamper the measure. There was no tampering that took place. We just want to put on record that we just reflected the true intention. Let me repeat. The true intention of the provisions as reflected on the transcript of records. Okay, let me repeat. We just reflected the true intention of the provisions as reflected on the transcript of records. The enrolled bill, yung pinirmahan ko na sa Washington, D.C., is the truthful reflection of the intent of the members of Congress. Diba? Yan yung intent ng majority when we approve this. A true reflection of the transcript of records. Now, may mga tanong na bakit naman na may naidagdag na tapos na po ang boxing. Sa totoo lang, let me give you the timeline of events. That evening, was it a Tuesday morning of Wednesday, 2 in the morning tayo nagtapos, di ba? Nag-third reading tayo, 2 in the morning of that Tuesday. I forget the exact date. May 31 ba yun? Correct me if I'm wrong. Yes, May 31 is Wednesday morning, di ba? May 31. Nagpatawag ng meeting ang House of Representatives 11 in the morning at Manila Golf Club to meet with the legislators. Let me put on record that that was not a BICAM meeting. That was only a meeting of the members of Congress and members of the House. That was not an official BICAM meeting. We just discussed provisions there, about the provisions. And in that discussion, they said that they will adopt the Senate version. So, between 2 in the morning to 11 in the morning, that is 9 hours, wala pang tulog yung mga staff natin, wala pang tulog yung secretariat. Yung pinadala dun is a draft. It was not a final enrolled bill. It's just a draft. Now, after checking the draft, we saw that there was inconsistencies on Section 50 and 51, which I actually, to be honest about it, was an honest oversight by the staff. Okay? Honest oversight by the Secretariat and the staff of Senator Villar. Because the author, and that has been done by my staff, hindi naman ako dati palaging Senate President, na yun lang ako Senate President. I have sponsored many bills, and after we approve these bills on plenary for second and third reading, nakatutok yung staff natin para to make sure na lahat ng pina-approve natin sa floor ma-reflect doon sa bills na yon. So, dahil siguro umaga na, that's the last day of work, there was an honest oversight of our secretariat. Now, when we saw that, Senator Mark Villar sent us a letter, and the letter is with me. It is here. And the letter, and this is normal, guys, and I will present to you why it's normal in legislative processes. The letter says, this is with reference to the enrollment of Senate Bill 2020 and House Bill 6608, otherwise known as Maharlika Investment Fund of 2023, sponsored by the undersigned. Upon advice of the Legislative Department, in the interest of clarity, may we respectfully propose that the measure reflect the sense of Section 50 and Section 51 under a single section. Yan. Ginagawa po ito ng mga sponsors always, and I will show you several bills that this has happened in the past. And this is to reflect the intent, last paragraph, this is to reflect the intent as may be gleaned upon the transcript of stenographic notes when proposed amendment to the good of the Deputy Minority Floor Leader was considered. Thank you. So the correct proceeding after that was to show or reflect the true intent of the transcript of Congress, basically, true intent of Congress, na isang provision lang. I know because I presided, di ba? In-insist ni Senator Ontiveros na gawing 20 years yung prescription period. I clearly recall, sabi ni Senator Mark Villar, hindi, 10 years lang. And he was firm. And it's here, I have the transcript records, and Senator Ontiveros just thanked him. She did not put it to a vote, she did not insist. So, that was the true intent of that provision. It was an honest oversight by our staff that they did not reflect that. They thought it was two provisions. Okay? Now, so, yan po ang kalalabasan dyan. There was no malice or intent or ill intent to tamper, as they're saying, or amend the measure. As long as it is not an enrolled bill, when you say subject to style, that is why when I declare subject to style in the plenary, and all the Senate presidents have done this, from Senator Drilon to Senator Soto to even Senator Coco, when they announce subject to style, that gives the Secretariat okay, the power to look at or adjust the commas, the periods, the wordings. Because when we say it on the floor, hindi naman lahat abogado, so we don't give the legal, sometimes the legal language. Pag sinabing subject to style, yung mga abogado sa legislative department natin dito, dinalagay na po nila yung the right language. It is only when it is enrolled, where before I sign, it is properly reviewed, when it is an enrolled copy. Now, on third reading, and I just want to clarify this, what the body approved on third reading was a bill with amendments introduced and adopted in plenary. There was no printed third reading copy, since this was a certified measure. And we do this, pag certified measure yan, after second reading, diretso na sa third reading. Diretso na yan, sa third reading. The certification does away with two things. The requirement to have 3 readings on a separate days, and number 2, the requirement to have a printed third reading copy before approval. Sometimes, we say, bigyan mo kami ng clean copy bago tayo mag-third reading the same day. But this case, it's not a requirement. By law or by our rules. There was no printed copy that was in its final form when we voted to approve the Maharlika version. Because of the lateness of the hour, it was basically 2 in the morning, right, at that time. Now,
Sir,
as presiding officer, I directed the secretary to take note of the amendments subject to style. So, let me repeat, the enrolled bill now, signed by myself, which is now in the House of Representatives, is the truthful reflection of the intent of the legislators. Yan ang totoong intention niya. So, I wait for further questions from our colleagues.
pero nasa House na, sir, ngayon
On the
for
way, walang
signature.
pasok kasi kahapon. So, today, it's being sent. Yeah, wala silang pasok today. So, but it's pending with the House Speaker na.
So, sir, are you saying na dumaan sa tamang proseso kung meron mang inayos doon sa pagdating doon sa section 50 and 51?
Yes, dumaan ang tamang proseso, and I will give you many examples.
Kasi some of your colleagues and other senators are saying na yung na-approve sa third and final reading, touch move na yun, hindi na pwedeng galawin.
That's not true, because even with the budget, when we passed the budget on second and third reading, hindi pa tapos yung budget. Alam naman ninyo yan. How many years have you guys been in? How many years have you been in Congress, in the Senate, Ate Sally?
Since 2004, sir.
2004?
Walang ganunan, sir.
19 years. Tinatanong ko lang. Sa 19 years mo na, ikaw yung dean natin dito.
Hindi, sir.
Marami sa inyo. 5
Senior pa.
years, 10 years na. You notice, when we approve the budget, second and third reading, anong ginagawa ng LBRM mo? Inaayos pa nila, linilinis pa nila. And that's not a violation of our rules. It happens many times. As a matter of fact, let me just get my notes. Something notes natin dito.
Kasi, sir, yung na-approve sa third reading, na-upload na sa website, so doon nakita nga na bakit may dalawang magkaiba na prescriptive period.
Yeah, but
So,
as
doon
long as
nag-start.
it's not an enrolled bill, it's still subject to the true reflection of our colleagues' intent and style corrections and editorials. I'll give you one example, guys. Okay, ito, bato-bato sa langit. Sana wag magalit. Okay. Sana ba yan? Yung bill po ni Senator Jinggoy,
About what, sir?
my dear friend, and he's already vacationing, nag-usap na kami kahapon. And I have it here. The bill of our distinguished colleague, Senator Jinggoy, when he sponsored the AFP Professionalism Act, okay? Okay. It was ratified, approved on third reading March 6. March 21, the bicameral conference meeting was held in the Senate. March 21. Approved na sa bicameral conference committee meeting. That morning, Senator Coco, our distinguished minority floor leader, continued to give amendments. Tapos na po sa BICAM report. Tapos na po. We approved it now. With due respect to my minority floor leader, baka naman sabihin niya on March 22, he continued to further give amendments. ratified in the afternoon of March 22. But even after that, they continued to do perfecting amendments. As a matter of fact, I have the letter here signed by Senator Jingo Estrada on the amendment requested by Senator Coco on March 29. This letter is March 29. The bill was already ratified March 22. Oh, let me read. With reference to an old copy of Senate Bill number 1849, House Bill number 6517, otherwise known as an act further strengthening professionalism, promoting the continuity of policies and modernization of the Armed Forces of the Philippines. Amending for this purpose Republic Act 11709. Upon the advice of Executive Director for Legislation may propose a polishing amendment to delete the phrase, whichever comes first in page 3, section 2, etc., etc. And then the new subsection 3 will read as follows. Case in point. And I can cite many other cases. And these are precedents in the Senate and in the House of Representatives. We amend the rules. Sometimes the rules are amended when we look at precedents. That's why, di ba si Senator Frank Dillon, when he was Minority Floor Leader, when I was Majority Floor Leader, he would always ask me on the floor, may I ask the Majority Floor Leader, has there been precedents? Has there been precedents about this move that we will make? And then I will cite, di ba? In July of 2000 so-and-so, we had already done this, or we recalled the BICAM version back to the House of Representatives so that we may open it back to the Bicameral Conference Committee. Mga ganyan. That's one example. I remember this was the Coco Levy Fund. Kasi nasubmit na sa Malacanang, pinarecall namin para gawin to, para amendahan muli and buksan muli yung Bicameral Conference Committee. So nung nalaman ni Senator Drilon na meron na palang nagawa na ganyan dati, sabi niya, okay, then I agree to this process. So, this process, guys, is not tantamount to falsification, this process. This is the usual legislative process that we go through. We're only reflecting the true essence of what was discussed on plenary. Until it is signed by me under an enrolled copy, that is, it can still be corrected subject to style here. Every bill, and I want to clear this, every bill approved with or without printed copy undergoes the process of enrollment. If this process were unnecessary, then bills would be signed by the Speaker and the Senate President on the same day they're approved. Bakit hindi pirmahan on the same day? Kasi tinitingnan po muna natin ang subject to style or style and style amendments. At baka pagdating sa palasyo, ang daming palpak, mapapaya po ang Kongreso at ang Senado niyan. So, again, let me repeat, it's been done in the past. Most recently, amendments of Senator Coco Pimentel, our Minority Floor Leader, given after the fact that it's been ratified already by the BICAM.
So sir, magiging questionable lang kung may in-insert na hindi na pag-usapan sa
Yes,
plenary.
ayun. Yun ang illegal.
Yun ang falsification.
Yun ang falsification. For example, pinag-usapan from 20 years, sa ayaw ni Mark, ginawa niyang 10 years. Tapos, ginawa lalo ni Mark, all of a sudden, 5 years. Hindi naman pinag-usapan yun sa floor. That is illegal. That is unconstitutional. And that is a problem.
So sir, no need po na ibalik sa plenary para ayusin yung
Not necessary.
magkakontra na
It is not necessary.
section.
As far as I'm concerned, hindi na kailangan. So again, with due respect to the parties involved, I'm just quoting what had transpired in the past. And there's several. May I look at the others? Marami yan. Baka sabihin nyo, binubuhala ko lang kayo. Sandali, sa may listahan dito. Yung sa initial press release natin.
So sir, confident kayo, sakali may question nito,
Yeah.
you can answer.
There is legal jurisprudence. But before I go to that, allow me first to give the list, no? Saan yung original? Yeah. Ito. One second. Amendments to the Foreign Investments Act. Okay? One senator wrote to the Director of House of Representatives Bill next to other phrase after it was deleted in the BICAM Conference Committee in the intention to sponsor. In the letter, the senator said, the phrase upon recommendation motu proprio of NEDA was one of the provisions included in Republic Act 7042, etc., etc. So, in other words, it was amended. The vape bill Anything done in the process of enrollment through text and informal exchanges. Vape bill po ito. Yan. Anti-terrorism law. Anything done through informal exchanges by several of the senators and congressmen. The Bayanihan law. Anything done through informal exchanges. And I have the list here. I can also give you guys a copy of this out of transparency. And of course, the budget bill. The budget bill. And as I mentioned earlier, yung itong kay sponsorship ni Senator Jinggoy, AFP Bill amending Republic Act 11709. So these are just some of the measures that had gone through, I would not say amendments, but had gone through corrections after looking at the intent of the legislators on the transcript of records. Now, legal jurisprudence. Of course, I don't want to debate with Senator Coco Pimentel, being a bar top-notcher. I am just an, kung sa Bisaya, murag abogado. Parang abogado lang. Just my extensive years of experience as majority leader under Senator Enrile, under Senator Soto, had prepared me for these particular issues. There are jurisprudence on internal processes of Congress. For example, Morales versus Subido in Civil Service Commission and the Civil Service Commission. Very clear that the Supreme Court declined to rule on matters involving the internal processes of Congress. And it says, we cannot go behind the Enrolled Act to discover what really happened. This is a portion, direct quote from the Supreme Court decision. The respect due to other branches of government demands that we act upon the faith and credit of what the officers and the said branches attest to as the official acts of the respective departments. Yan. So, ibig sabihin yan, pag enrolled copy, wala na po silang decision dyan. What transpired before the enrolled copy? There are several pa. Joker Arroyo versus Jose de Venecia, Speaker de Venecia. As a matter of fact, the court disagreed and dismissed the petition. The court, and it reasoned why, the court will decline to rule that when only the internal rules of Congress are concerned, parliamentary rules are merely procedural and with their observance, courts have no concern. Meron pang Tolentino versus Secretary of Finance. Meron pang isa, Philippine Judges Association versus Prado. So, ito po yung mga jurisprudence na binanggit ko po. I'll give you a copy on this particular issue so that this be clarified.
Sir?
So, yan na po. Yan yung sagot dyan.
Sir, there...
Thank you. I mean, if it was a provision that was controversial, like a real controversy, for example, yung getting back the pension funds, na, di ba, tinanggal na. Tanggal na yan. Hindi na pwede sila. They're completely banned from participating in the MIF. Tapos ibinalik doon, ayun, kaletse-letse na. Pati ako, I'd be up in arms. But this is a very simple styling correction. It was just basically that our staff got confused. It's an honest to goodness oversight by our staff that they put two provisions, one 10 years, one 20 years. When we pointed it out to the sponsor, sabi ng sponsor, Senator Mark Villar, hindi 10 years lang yan. And I agreed with him when he called me and I said, yes, because I presided and I clearly saw that you did not accept the amendment of Senator Risa Ontiveros. So with due respect to all the players who are claiming that it is tampered, it has not been tampered. We are only showing the true reflection of the transcript of records.
Sir, there are calls for the President to veto MIF bill, but recently the President said he's now ready to sign the bill. So are you confident na hindi ito mag-veto?
The veto power is prerogative of the President. I do not want to dwell on the prerogative and powers of the President. So I don't want to short guess what the President will do.
Okay, Amor.
Sir, is there a need to amend the rules na lang? Para sabi niyo nga po, sir, marami ng beses na nagawa siya in the past. Sir, why not just amend the rules para malinaw na pwede talaga itong mga bagay na to?
Maybe we don't need to amend the rules. What we will be doing in the future, okay, is making sure that before, for example, we pass the version on third reading, as presiding officer, I'll make sure na meron na tayong clean copy. I mean, we don't have to amend. Kasi moving to amend the rules, we'll have to publish the rules once again. As presiding officer, we'll just be very clear about that. Yes, kahit priority measures. I mean, mabilis lang naman yung clean copy. Unless, of course, mahaba siya. For example, the budget is very difficult. The budget is 2 books like that. It's very difficult to print that out for a clean copy immediately.
Okay, Mark Kayabeb from Philippine Star, sir.
Hi, Mark. Ikaw ang nag-replace kay
Paolo.
Paolo? Yeah. I saw your boss yesterday. Napapagupit kami dalawa. Si Miguel. Sir Miguel. Yeah, good friend of mine. May tukayo. The House wanted just to adopt our version. So it's just up to us to have come up with the, as I mentioned, true reflection of Congress, of the Senate. Ayaw nila mag-BICAM at that time. So it's not necessary because it's not, again, it's the provisions that were there is not a deal breaker as far as what was discussed on the floor. It's not a controversial provision. It's just being clarifying that ano ba talaga, 10 or 20 years. And if we look at the transcript, ang sabi ni Senator Mark, it's 10 years. So, yes. And according to my legal team, the bill will even survive without a prescription. In other words, maski na wala yung provision na yan, it will survive because the general rules on prescription will still apply. There's general rules for prescription. So, it doesn't necessarily have to go through a BICAM.
So, sir, nung inadab ba yun ng
Tsaka,
House?
pagdating yan sa Malacanang, guys, dadaan pa yan ng ES. I think they're reviewing it. The legal team of the President is still reviewing the measure. So, we have to wait also their findings upon reviewing the measure.
So, sir, nung inadap ito ng House, hindi na nila nabasa yung buong copy ng na-approve ng Senate.
They read most of it. I think they read most of it.
So,
I presume. I don't want to. Hindi naman ako member ng BICAM, guys. So, I think it's best to ask the members of BICAM. Kumain na ako. Kumain na ako doon, tapos na sila.
okay, before Amor, Raymond, Mayan, and then Amor. Raymond.
Yun lang,
Raymond.
going back to the subject to style. Absolute ba yun? Na lahat pwede?
No, not subject to style it's styling amendments. It has nothing to do with the intent. For example, lalagay mo dyan na example lang to, hindi to maharlika. Example lang to. Gusto ko ilagay sa batas na ang parusa ay 20 taon na kulong. Diba? 20 years ang pagkakulong. Pag sinabi mong subject to style, hindi na lang pwedeng gawing 30 years. Hindi po nila pwedeng 15 years o 10 years. Dapat 20 years yan, pero gagawin yung legal terminology. Diba? Yeah, for example, sasabihin ni Senator Robin Padilla, dapat ang pagkakulong niya ay 20 taon. Sasabihin ng sponsor, I accept the amendment, Your Honor. Then I say, amendment is accepted subject to style. Yung subject to style dyan, yung legal phrasing yung 20 years na yan. To how it will be placed and reflected in the provision, the legal phrasing, the right way of saying it. Kasi Tagalog din yan sinabi, kaya naka-English. That is subject to style. But the intent cannot be changed. It cannot be changed. So subject to style does not mean you have a blanket authority to amend the intent of those provisions. No. Bawal yun. Kaya napakalaga, as far as I'm concerned as a sponsor, merong merong ways of protecting it. How? Dapat yung staff mo, sponsor author ka, yung staff mo nagbabantay. Pagkatapos in-approve yung amendment yan, paggawa ng clean copy, nakabantay yung staff mo. In my case, Senator Dave Torres, ito yung sa tabi ko, yung head of legis, tinitignan niya yun. Ay hindi po, dapat ito yung sinabi sa floor, dapat ito yung ilagay dyan. Nakabantay talaga sila with the secretariat. Pero sometimes, we work 2 to 3 in the morning. Pagod na yung mga, lalo na sa budget, di ba? Sa budget, we work 3 weeks straight. tatapos tayo 2 to 3 in the morning. You will have human error. There will always be human error. It's an honest, sometimes there are honest oversight. But with no intent, ang mahalaga dyan, there should be no intent or willful, I'd say, malice, no, to change provisions or the true intent of what was discussed on the floor. Dapat walang ganun.
So walang liable, sir, doon kapag ka ganong honest mistake?
Wala naman liable sa ganun. It's just, as far as I'm concerned, no one is liable for that. It's human error.
Okay, Mean?
Tsaka importante dyan, backup ng transcript.
Teka.
Ito, fast lang ha. Babalikan ko lang yung transcript ha. Kaya nga guys, really quick. Di ba pag sinasabi ng senator or sa floor, I would like to put this on record in the transcript of record so that if there is a question on legality, the Supreme Court can always look at the intent of this motion or provision. Di ba? So, palaging nilalagay nila yun on record. That's why napakalaga ang transcript of records. Yes, ma'am. I'm so sorry, my dear.
Saying more dahil related pa rin sa Maharlika. Hana, Maharlika pa rin? O, sige. So, mamaya kami, tapusin muna natin Maharlika.
SP, have you heard from the House na po kung bakit hindi pa napipirmahan ni House Speaker Martin Romualdez yung Maharlika Bill?
Walang pasok
Walang pasok.
today and I think yesterday and today walang pasok.
And sir, last week hindi enough yung time to sign it?
It just came back, di ba, na pirma sa Washington, dinala namin. So,
It just came back when, sir?
this week, I think, Tuesday.
So, probably-
it'll be signed soon. And the speaker has committed to sign. He told me that he will sign.
So, sir, probably next week matransmit sa Office of the
Office
President.
of the President.
Okay, Hana.
As far as the speaker is concerned, when he spoke to him, he said he will sign it, so there should be no problem. Walang pasok today, yesterday and today. So walang pasok, lalo na bukas, Friday. So baka by Monday, pirmado na yun. As a matter of fact, we might have a meeting with the speaker next week before the LEDAC. So by that time, for sure, I'm sure he would have signed it. But I don't want to guess, Hannah, I think you should ask the speaker na lang. I don't want to. Yes. No, wala naman. But they have a copy of the enrolled bill. Yeah. And the secretariat, according to my staff, kasi I was busy in Washington, according to my staff, secretariat have been meeting. So they're okay with it.
So, no need to explain them kasi may ibang mga nagreklamo or kumu-question doon sa naging proseso, di ba? Nung pag-address doon sa ano. So,
Then,
no need to talk to them.
Sinulatan ni Secretary Ray Mantug yung Secretary ng House, explaining that it was a human error. It's the process that I mentioned to you today.
Okay.
So, acceptable naman sa kanila.
So, no more question about Maharlika. Move on na. Ay, may isa pa pahabol.
Yes.
Sir, paano lumabas yung storya nung nagkaroon kayo ng Viber session?
Well, the Viber session, we just gave them, marami nagtanong sa Viber group, namin, kasi may Viber group ako with the majority senators, on ito nga, yung nagka-doble-doble. Sumagot naman si Senator Mark, meron akong sinulat, hindi yan ng totoo, ito yung totoo. O lahat naman sumagot, acknowledge SP, yes SP. So there's nothing wrong with that. We do Zoom, don't we? The House of Representatives does Zoom all the time, in plenary. May I just put on record that the senators go to work every day, Monday to Wednesday. Nandito kami. We don't do Zoom, we don't do official sessions on Zoom. So, if they allow it, if we allow it, we allow naman under our rules to be able to answer and discuss things electronically, there should be no problem. Kasi, clarify lang namin dun sa Zoom meeting, di ba? Sa Zoom meeting, clarify lang natin dun, yung Viber group pala, sa Viber group, clarify lang namin yung discussion nga dun sa two provisions, bakit nagkaganon. Sinagot naman ni Senator Mark, na hindi tama yan, pinaayos ko na. Dahil hindi naman yan ang pinag-usapan sa floor. Ang importante dyan, kung anong pinag-usapan sa floor, yan ang ilalabas sa bill, sa enrolled bill. Actually, mas masama pa nga yun eh. Kung iniwan natin yung dalawang provision na yun, that was not the reflection of the true intent of the law. So mas nakakasira. So inayos natin yung true intention of the provision in the new enrolled bill.
May question from Nympha about Maharlika pa rin.
Good morning po, SP Zubiri.
Hi, my
sir.
dear.
Sir, paano po siya kinorek? Yung sections 50 and 51. Kasi we were told po na
It became
pinagsama.
a single provision na lang.
Opo.
Yeah, it was corrected by coming up with a single provision of that's only 10 years, need 20, 10 years lang.
Aha. So, nawala na po yung section 51, sir?
Yes, there's, under the enrolled bill, it's only section, what's the exact word, the exact section?
Kasi po, sir, we were told po na pinag-combine. So, nandun
Yeah.
yung dalawang sentences from sections 50 and 51. So, meron pa rin pong...
No, there's no mention of section 50 and 51, it's just one section. I don't have a copy of it now, but pinag-isahan na lang yan. Pinag-isahan na lang yan. So
So,
it's just one provision, 10 years prescription period.
So na-adjust na sir yung mga number.
Yes. It is under Section 50, prescription of crimes and offenses. The crimes and offenses punishable under this act shall prescribe in 10 years. However, the right of the state to recover properties unlawfully acquired by the person involved, nominees or transferees of embezzlement, misappropriation of funds shall not be barred by prescription, laches, or estoppel. So that's it.
May follow-up, Nympha?
Just 10 years. That was what was discussed on the floor.
Teka, before may sir, going back doon sa US trip mo, may patanungan si Aaron, napag-usapan daw ba yung request ng US na i-accommodate natin yung mga Afghan nationals?
Yes, there was a request.
And then, paano yung naging meeting, napag-usapan niyo
Ako,
doon?
on a personal capacity as the Senate President, I think it is the right thing to do for humanitarian concerns. I was once Vice Chairman of the Philippine Red Cross. I'm still a Board of Governors of the Philippine Red Cross. As a humanitarian, a believer in saving suffering humanity, it is the right thing to do as humanly as possible. Why? Hindi naman po sila lilipat dito sa ating bansa. Ang request lang po ay parang halfway house na kung saan sila po gagastos ng lahat, ang Estados Unidos. Gagawa po sila ng housing, gagawa po sila ng facilities na pag-alis po after 60 to 90 days, pag-alis po ng Afghan refugees, papunta na Amerika, maiiwan po lahat yan sa Pilipinas. Kaya yung sila nagsasabi na tatayuan pa natin sila ng bahay, tatayuan pa natin sila ng mga pasilidades. Hindi po totoo yun. Ang magtatayo po, ang Estados Unidos, at maiiwan po yan as asset na ng Philippine, ng ating Estado, ng Pilipinas. So, I was told that last week, there were already, in another halfway house, 200 Afghan refugees were already boarded into a C-130 plane. This was told to me by one of the officials of the government. I will not anymore mention the name because that might be private, secret discussions. But they told me, sir, last week we had 200 Afghan Afghan refugees in a C-130 ready to leave Afghanistan, Kabul, to already go to another country, halfway area, being processed for the United States. Alam mo, pinadisembark sila, yung 200 na hindi nila mahanap kung saan po sila.
Kawawa naman.
Men, women, and little children. Now they cannot be found. They cannot be located anymore. The reason why they were this low, unloaded, they have no understanding why. It could be anything between harassment to abduction to whatever. We don't know the fate of these 200 Afghan refugees. That is the situation now in Afghanistan with the Taliban. I guess, kung identify ka na tumutulong sa Amerikano, patay ka.
Sir,
So maawa naman tayo sa kanila. Isn't it the right thing to do? We have a let me state for the record. We had done this in 1930s with the Jewish people. Noong nagkaroon po ng patayan sa World War II in Europe, President Manuel L. Quezon opened the doors of the Philippines and brought them into the Philippines to seek safe refuge. Ganda po ng ginawa po natin yan. the fall of Saigon in Vietnam. Naalala mo yung Puerto Princesa, dati ang dami mga Vietnamese boat people na nandun. It was opened by President Marcos to allow them to come in and to relocate in Puerto Princesa. And that is why Puerto Princesa is known for a lot of Vietnamese cuisine. Masarap yung Vietnamese food. There's a Philippine-Vietnamese village. It was the right thing to do. And I think if these men and women and children are being slaughtered for supporting another country at the time, I think, and they're being now repatriated to the United States, I think it's the right thing to do for the Philippines to allow them to come up with a halfway house here. What is important is it's immediate. Kasi hinahanap na sila, isa-isang hinahanap sila. At tina-target for persecution.
Sir, na-mention ba?
Kawawa naman sila. So if you ask me personally, I do not know the legal impediments to this. But if you ask me personally, we should do it. It's the right thing to do.
Pero sir, during your meeting, na-mention gaano karami yung mga Afghan nationals na dadalhin dito at gaano katagal sila mag-stay dito?
They did mention the number, but hindi naman gano'ng karami. Kasi ano pala meron po silang halfway house sa Germany, meron po silang halfway house, I think other countries sa Qatar, they have several countries that are like the halfway house processing center for these refugees. And we're signatories to several United Nations statutes in supporting, the helping these refugees. So, ito pala. Article 19 of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights recognize the right of persons to seek asylum. But actually, they're not even seeking asylum. They're not seeking asylum in the Philippines.
Temporary shelter.
Temporary lang po sila dito while all their papers are documented. And they are going to be vetted out kasi may mga security analysts dito nagsasabi baka po pumasok dyan ng Taliban.
Terrorist.
Alam mo, pag vinet out na yung State Department ng Estados Unidos yan, napakahigpit sila sa vetting process. Napakahigpit. So, mas mahigpit pa sila sa atin sigurado. Sigurado ako dito kasi we're going to ask the Americans again, our allies, ito ba'y may terrorist links? We're the same thing, we're going to ask them. But they've been vetted out already by the U.S. State Department and Homeland Security before they can even enter the Philippines. Kaya, guys, let's put ourselves in that situation. Kung nagkagera tayo dito, di ko na babanggitin kung sino, pasukan tayo dito. Dahil malapit po tayo sa Estados Unidos, sabihin ng Estados Unidos, lahat kayo mga Pilipino, welcome kayo lumipat sa United States. At we need a halfway house. I'm sure we'll appreciate this gesture that they would do for us. So, I think that's the whole point here. It's the right thing to do.
Before may si Jojo related.
I joke. Yeah, joke.
Sir, sabi nga, posibleng network ng Taliban, medyo manawak. It's very possible na makakagawin.
Pag
Hindi
in-accommodate.
naman siguro. Anong gagawin nila? Hindi naman siguro anong gagawin nila. They're having problems surviving as a country. So I don't want to comment on the issue on the Taliban. Mga lang dyan, it's the right humanitarian thing to do. And we have a history on that. Actually, ang sagot nga ng State Department under Secretary Nuland is that the Philippines has a history of helping people. Has a history of helping people. Kaya ang ganda eh. So, anong binanggit niya yan, I totally agree. Remember, dahil nga dyan sa ginawa natin in 1930s sa mga Jewish people of Israel, may visa-free status ng Filipino sa Israel. Number one, caregivers ng Israel, Filipinos. They welcome Filipino workers in Israel. And we can go anytime. You can get a ticket, go to Israel. Once you enter the border, Filipino, no problem. Pasok. No problem. Ganun nila tayo kamahal. Ganun nila tayo kamahal.
Okay, Aaron, sir,
Aaron.
patanong.
Pero Senator, may mga usap-usapan po kasi that there are possibilities that the Afghans coming here to the Philippines, there is a possibility na sila ay US operatives na gagamitin sa pagkapaggera if ever magkaroon po ng gera between China.
I don't think so. They're only going to stay here for 90 days, Aaron. Ang sabi nila sa akin, they're only going to be there between 60 to 90 days, no more. And ano yan enclosed yan. Hindi sila makalabas. Yeah, those are what you call parang quarantine facility. Parang not quarantine, there's another word, not quarantine. It's something facilities. It's a holding facility. Hindi sila makalabas. hindi sila makalabas.
So there was an assurance talaga, Senator, that hindi sila makalabas and at the same time, 90
There's an
days lang.
assurance na hindi sila makalabas.
Confined sila.
Confined sila at babantayan ng ating mga Bureau of Immigrations. Na hindi ko na alam kung ipapalabas ng Bureau of Immigrations yun. Ano ba naman? May mga racketeer din doon. So kailangan mabantayan ng maayos yun. Kasi yung pogo nga, nalalabas kung saan-saan. Oh.
Kasi
So dapat yan, mabantayan ng maayos.
Okay, Mark and then Sandra, related dito sa Asian
So yung since there was a hearing initiated by Senator Amy, have you talked to the senator? Like, saan po kayo nanggagaling yung ganitong
Actually,
desire niya to look into the issue? And
I don't.
even the Vice President, Sara Duterte, is expressed her position through Undersecretary Poa na even the Vice President is against this.
Well, I respect their opinions, one way or the other. But ang akin dyan is, I haven't spoken to her. I probably will in the future when we see each other. Pag may mga meetings kami, I will mention to her that that's my personal opinion. As I said, it's my personal opinion. It's not the opinion of the Senate. I have not discussed this with my colleagues at all. But as for my personal opinion, bilang isang miyembro, volunteer ng Red Cross at dating Vice Chairman ng Philippine Red Cross, it's the right and humanely thing to do.
So is it ultimately the President's decision? Is this like...
The President has to allow it, of course. If he doesn't allow it, nothing happens.
Yes, sir. So basically, sir, we have the President's sister and the Vice President and the Senate, giving this advice to the President right now. So, is it like
I
something...
leave it to the President. That's an executive decision. So, me and Senator Tol share the same view. And also several of our other colleagues that I've spoken to. I think that's the right thing. I'll give you an example. Galing ako ng States. I went to Utah, nakabisita ako dun sa Black Rifle Coffee. Itong Black Rifle Coffee was set up by veterans. I don't know if you've heard of it, but it's now fastest growing coffee in the US. Ang nagpapatakbo nito ay veterans of all different American, not wars, but battles abroad. When I went there, they were so proud in saying that part of our workforce are Afghani nationals. And I met with them. Ito yung nag-guide sa kanila habang special forces, nag-ano sila. Ito yung mga guide nila, translators nila. And I met with them. They were so happy. They told me, sir, if we stayed back in Afghanistan, my whole family and I would be massacred. They were so happy. What are they doing now? They're brewing coffee. They're brewing coffee. Ang ganda, they're kids. They're so young. They have hope for the future. Otherwise, they would have been massacred. So sabi ko nga, that's a great example of a humanely thing to do, is to help these people.
So I think the concern also of Senator Amy was that parang shrouded daw in secrecy all these talks that went through about this issue. Is
Well,
there even the
in
need
fairness,
to
when I went to the
publicize?
State Department, they asked me about it, kung pwede. I guess they don't, also the reason why they don't want to come out with this out loud is because of the safety of the 20,000 Afghan refugees that are waiting there. Biro mo ko ilabas yan, nasa international news. All these countries, naglabas ng statement, we will house the Afghan refugees. Baka lalo silang mababarilan. Baka ma-firing squad sila ng mas maaga. So that's why there's secrecy, because there's safety involved in this. Because they have to be flown out there. They have to be flown out. I think they have one in Pakistan. They have a halfway house in Pakistan. They have a halfway house in, Germany and Qatar. So they're looking at this other route also with the Philippines na para gawin ito.
Okay, Sandra, same issue.
Sir, related
Sandra.
to what you just said right now, so na-mention po ba nila why the Philippines, and I think it was the State Department, sir, no, that you talked to.
Yes,
So
Undersecretary Nulan.
so the context is they're asking your support?
Yeah, they're asking our support, and they asked me first how I feel about it. And syempre, gumanang loob nila nung sinabi ko, as a Red Crosser, as a humanitarian who believes that we should help suffering humanity, I said I have no problems with it. I personally think it's the right thing to do. Nung sinabi ko po yan, then they explained, ito lang naman ang i-request namin, na malipat sila dyan for only 60 to 90 days. And it's not all. Kasi marami naman silang halfway house all over the world. So parang hinihingi lang nila a few thousand Afghan refugees. Ang kailangan lang gawin is at the soonest possible time para sa hindi malalagay sa alanganin ng kanilang mga buhay. Dahil sinabi nga niya na last week may 200 na dapat ilipat na sa Pakistan to check yung papeles papunta ng Estados Unidos. Hindi na nila mahanap, pinadisembark sa aeroplano at hindi na nila mahanap. And coming from them, that must be gospel truth because it was an official meeting with the State Department. So, ang sabi nila, at no expense to the Philippine government, gagawin nila lahat ng facilities, at lahat ng facilities will be returned to the Philippine people. It's going to be owned by the Filipino people. Pwede pa natin gamitin yan for housing. Pwede pa natin gamitin yan for maybe halfway house also for the Bureau of Immigration kasi sa daming illegal na pumapasok dito na mga POGO operators, baka pwede na nilagay ito para secured yung mga facilities na ito. So, I mean, there's not a loss to the Philippines. There's no loss to the Philippines whatsoever.
Sandali, meron pa si Sandra pa.
Yes na lang, sir. Na-mention
Sandra.
ba nila why the Philippines and after being processed here, saan po dadalhin?
Because they consider the Philippines as a close friend and ally. Diba? They're also trying to seek support with other countries around the region, but they feel that the Philippines is a close friend na pwede nilang makausap. And I think there's nothing wrong with that.
And then Macon, last na about
Kasi yesterday also Senator Amy mentioned, sorry, Senator, she also filed a resolution about a certain landing of a U.S. aircraft sa NAIA on June 26, and she's expressed fears na it's in relation to this issue na, and you mentioned she's also wondering kung may na-disembark na ba from that U.S. aircraft when they landed. Have you heard of that issue?
I have no comment on that because I have no clue. I have no information on that.
But during your working visit, sir, is there like an understanding that U.S. During your meeting na parang U.S. aircraft can just arrive can just land at
we are treaty allies.
Yes, sir.
We are treaty allies. We have EDCA sites. We agreed to VFA, the Visiting Forces Agreement. The Visiting Forces Agreement allows U.S. government aircraft and personnel to visit the Philippines for training, for whatever purpose that is needed to strengthen our alliance with the United States Defense Alliance. And we have EDCA sites, meaning that we have enhanced defense cooperation agreement sites all over the Philippines, including 4 kilometers from my house in Cagayan de Oro, in Lumbia. I don't mind.
Okay, last na ito about Afghan ha. Macon, and then other issue na tayo. Okay.
Yes.
Macon.
Hello. Amid the rationale for humanitarian reason, hindi ba Afghanistan is one of the most dangerous countries? Tapos meron travel advisories against going there due to proliferation ng crime sa yung civil unrest. So, would you not consider na bakit kailangan nating i-accommodate sila rito? Is it safe for us?
Because they're human beings. Your blood and their blood are both red. Your children and their children are also musmus na kailangan tulungan at bigyan protection. Because it is the right thing to do. And you're talking to the wrong guy. I'm a Red Crosser, so sa pananaw ko, lahat kayo, may kasalanan mo, hindi, dapat mabuhay. So, again, I've been a Red Crosser for 20 years. I think when Henry Dunant founded the Red Cross in the Battle of Solferino, bumabasa dun sa carriage niya. Nakita niya, nagpapatay yung dalawang bansa. He didn't ask, are you Swiss? Are you French? Are you Italian? Hindi, tinulungan niya. Nilagyan niya ng tourniquet, tinulungan niya lahat. That's the Red Cross concept. So, I believe in that. I think that's on the issue on being I don't want to comment anymore on the Taliban and the Afghan people. I mean, this could happen. Remember that President Duterte, in his presidency, also welcomed the Rohingya. Yung Rohingya, dun sa Cambodia, Myanmar, yung issue ng Myanmar, he even said, we welcome the Rohingya, you can come here. Sinabi ni President Duterte yan. So, our country is known for its humanitarian causes.
Okay, may pahabol pa si Hana.
No more follow-up question kasi
Salamat.
sobrang bait.
Thank you.
Si Hana daw,
Ayun din,
pahabol.
alagaan ko kayo. Pag hinahabol kayo ng armadong tao, pwede kayong pumunta sa bahay ko. Ay, alagaan ko kayo.
Sir, follow-up lang po dun sa Afghan
Thank you.
issue. Sir, do you plan to communicate what you just said kay Senator Amy Marcos? Kasi parang
If I see her-
gigil
if I
na
see her-
gigil kasi siya dun sa
And then
issue.
we respect naman individual opinions of every senator. Iba yung estilo ko sa ibang mga liderato ng Senado. I'm not a dictator. I do not impose what I believe in to my colleagues. And I think that's why they like me. I'm a consultative leader and I get consensus. So there are members of the Senate that feel differently, but that's not the consensus. The consensus will come out and there might be another majority decision. But we respect every individual senator's rights and opinions. So kung ayaw niya din, I respect her. She must have her reasons, and I'm sure I respect those reasons. And the reason, and my reason is my personal opinion, and my personal reason for supporting this.
Sir, do you agree na mali kasi or parang hindi kasi maayos yung explanation ng DFA about this issue?
Isa pa yun, I think may problema din yung messaging ng DFA. Di ba? I think ayusin din ng DFA yung kanilang messaging talaga. And eventually, and I agree to this personal note given to me by my staff, the head of foreign policy, the chief architect of foreign policy is the president. So, if the president says to the DFA and NICA to pursue this for the best interest of the country, then so be it. No? Then you can give your opinion, you can go against it or not. But the architect of our foreign policy is the president.
Okay.
So the buck will stop with him if he will agree to it or not.
So other issues, sir, while you were away, there are issues about Senate leadership. Mukhang yun ay tatanong mo, Mayan. Ay, iba pa.
Pag-aralan ko muna yan, my dear, kasi lumilipad ako dito kahapon, lumabas yung, I haven't read it yet, the decision. Apparently it doesn't say na, apparently, it says to continue with the elections on October 30. Pero after that, wala nang changes.
Unless may
may compelling reason, may gera, may pandemic, or whatever. So, ang sabi lang nila, ayaw lang nila yung palaging postpone. Dahil on a whim. Gusto lang natin mag-postpone. So, yan ang ayaw nila. So, I guess it's clear. That's a clear instruction to us. I think Senator Tolentino wants to appeal the ruling. Okay? But I said, if you do that, then you might be bringing you might be bringing the sense of the Senate. So, mabuting pag-usapan na lang natin when we get back. So, when we get back, we'll have a meeting. Magkakokos naman kami. One of the topics that we'll be discussing in the caucus.
So with this SC ruling, sir, magiging maingat na ho yung Congress sa pagpapasa ng batas about the postponement of election
For barangay,
for barangay.
barangay lang naman yan. You cannot postpone the national election. So, barangay lang. Maybe there could be, I don't know, I'm not a legal luminary, but maybe if it's too short, kasi ang complaint nila palagi, barangay elections every 3 years, parang napakaikli daw ng panahon ng 3 years na may gagawin kang mga programa para sa barangay, which is true kasi yung sa projects pa lamang, di ba mag-aalal ka pa ng mga members sa iba't ibang committee doon sa barangay level, pag-implement ng projects, aabuti ka na ng isang taon. So, patapos na nga yung project mo, election na naman. So, parang walang continuity of program. So, maybe it might be good to just look at the law creating the barangay, the elections of the barangay officials, and maybe just make 5-year terms.
Extend yung term nila, sir.
Or just, amend the law on the it's a law on the local government code. Local government code yan. So you can amend that particular provision, local government code, and just say instead of 3 years, gawin mo 5 years.
Do you support that, sir?
That might be even easier. No, only for those who are complaining that it's too short a term, yung 3 years sa barangay level. Di ba? Kasi, kami, may term limits kami, at saka yung period of terms under the Constitution yan. So, parang ano natin yan, that's the Bible that we follow. Wala tayong magagawa dyan. So, that is set at 3 years. But the law creating the barangay and SK officials is in the law of Senator Aquilino Pimentel Jr., the father of Coco, which is the local government code. That is a law that can be amended.
So hindi ba enough compelling reason yun na during the pandemic talagang hindi nakagalaw din yung mga
talagang
barangay officials?
Lockdown. So, I don't mind if there's an amendment to the local government code para just to address this situation na palaging extend. Dahil sa expenses, di gawin na lang 5 years yung mga barangay officials. Amending the local government code. Why not? Why not? That's not a bad idea. Para elect sabay na lang, then 6 years sila, why not? Why not? Yes, partner?
Same issue, Mike? Same issue? Okay.
It's okay kasi that's not supposed to be political in nature. It's not supposed to be political. Hindi sila political party, hindi sila member ng NP, ng LP. They're supposed to be the voice of the people on the barangay level. So, okay na rin yun. Kasi pag hinalal na yun, yun ang gusto ng taong bayan doon sa barangay nila. Anyway, there are many recall provisions naman eh. If they make a mistake, they steal money, then they can be subject to suspension by the ombudsman, by the DILG. Pero at least it will save the money. Kasi one of the reasons, di ba, yung compelling reason palagi, wala tayong pera. Kasi maglalagay tayo, Kongreso at Senado, maglalagay ng pondo sa COMELEC para sa eleksyon kada 3 taon. Now, that money, imagine, instead of 3 years, gawin natin 6 years. Yung gitna na yun, which is about 10 billion for the elections, gamitin natin for classrooms. Gamitin natin for improvement of our IT, internet connectivity among all the provinces. Things like that. So, magandang idea yun. And I would support Senator Amy on that proposal.
Raymond?
Speaking of that budget, yun na yung dilemma because of that decision of the Supreme Court. Sa 2025, there will be another barangay election. So, in 1 year, you will be having 2 elections.
Correct.
Walang concern sa...
Pero hindi naman nila sinasabi na hindi namin pwedeng amend yung local government code, di ba? Yeah. Kasi the elections of, ang gusto nila is continuity. Under the law, tatlong taon nakalagay doon. Ayaw nilang palitan namin yun na gawing additional 1 year, additional 2 years. Siguro, and I think we're also going to dialogue with the Supreme Court about this. Senator Tolentino, and you can ask Senator Tolentino, maybe he should be your next guest. Senator Tolentino had a meeting the other day with several justices. So, my suggestion is, we'll reach out to the Supreme Court Chief Justice and ask him, but it would be constitutional if we amend the local government code, which declares that barangay elections should be held every 3 years. So, if we amend the local government code that says it should be held every 6 years, then I don't think it will be violative of the Constitution anymore. Kasi that's yeah, right of suffrage, oh. But the fixed term and the election, the date of the fix yung term, but the fixing of the terms come in a form of a law, which is the local government code. So pwedeng ma-amend yun. As far as I'm concerned, again, parang abogado lang ako dito. As far as I'm concerned, you can amend the local government code to reflect it differently.
Sir, kasi ang observation, minsan nagiging mas mahaba pa yung term ng mga barangay officials sa presidente dahil postponed.
Pero tama din naman yan na mas mahabang ang tenure nila. Kasi napaka-divisive, no? Napaka-divisive ang eleksyon sa barangay. Mas divisive yung eleksyon sa barangay kaysa sa national, guys. Ha? Sa national, parang piyesta yan. Kasi, sino ka? Si ano ka? Kay ganito ka? Kay akin, presidente, ganito. Masaya. fiesta. Pag pumunta sila doon, parang rally, may concert, masaya. Eh yung barangay election, bakbakan yun. Kasi pamilya against pamilya,
Yes.
kapitbahay against kapitbahay. And you know, I think the COMELEC and the PNP should be very, very proactive. Because usually maraming namamatay sa barangay elections. Maraming patayan sa barangay elections, lalo na sa amin sa Mindanao at sa mga mahirap na lugar, nagkakapatayan. Kaya I think they should be more proactive to come up with to secure the elections of the barangays on October 30.
Okay, sir, na-mention ko kanina na habang wala ka, may mga rumors about Senate leadership. So, Mayan will be asked question on this.
Sir,
Hi, Mian. Sorry, Mian, hindi ako nakakasagot. Nagbiyahe ako kahapon. Yeah, that's it. Ako, I have only one statement to make. I serve at the pleasure of my colleagues. Kung ayaw na nila sa akin, they can take me out. Kung happy pa sila sa akin, they can keep me in as long as they need me. But I am honored to serve my colleagues. I am very honored to serve my colleagues. Una sa lahat, nagpapasalamat po ako sa kanila. Sa lahat ng aking mga kasamahan dito na nagbigay po ng statement of support. Hindi lang ako nakasagot kaagad dahil nagbabiyahe po ako pabalik dito sa Pilipinas. Pero nakakapagpataba ng puso yung mga binanggit po nila mga statements of support sa akin. Again, iba't ibang estilo po ang mga Senate presidents of the past. There are Senate presidents of the past that ruled with an iron hand. There are Senate presidents of the past that ruled purely on legalities. I am a different style of leader. I always seek the consensus of my colleagues, and I'm a consultative leader. And I think mas natutuwa po sila dyan. At hindi po ako mahilig magpahiya ng members sa floor. Dati kasi, naalala ko nung panahon ni Senator Enrile as Senate President, pag nagalit yun, he'll call you out. Eh, that gentleman from so-and-so, you're out of order. Eh, gumaganyan niya kaagad. Hindi po ako ganyan. I would suspend session and remind our colleagues of proper decorum, what is supposed to be done, what should be done, and the proper, I'd say, respect for our rules and traditions. And I think they appreciate that. Yung mga bago, they appreciate that. So, yan ang estilo ko. Hindi po ako nagpapahiya ng kapwang senador. Dahil kahit anong sasabihin mo, whether they're number 1 or number 12, ay in the elections, senador pa rin yan.
Correct.
Halal ng taong bayan yan. Alam mo, pag may break, gano'n naman talaga ang pag-usap-usapan eh. And I got Senator Jinggoy, my dear friend, alam mo, isa sa mga bumisita sa kanya nung naka-incarcerate siya dun sa Camp Crame. My dear friend, and I have spoken already, sabi niya wala naman siyang plano. Wala naman siyang planong tumakbo. Hindi niya alam kung saan galing yung balitang yun. And so, as again, I said, I serve at the pleasure of my colleagues. Kung ano pong gusto nila, sunod lang po ako.
Sir, for the record, meron po bang nakarating na information or did any of your colleagues approach you
Not at all.
hinahabi or...
Nagugulat nga sila lahat eh.
Kung
Ang
saan
information galing sa inyo eh. Yun lang naman ang ano. Bira. Media lang ang gumagawa ng mga gimmick na ganun.
So, sir,
Di ba? Kasi nagugulat sila sa Viber group namin. May mga tanong ulit dito. Saan naman galing ito? May mga tanong dyan. Saan galing ito? Ay ko, break sila. Break kami tayo din. Okay lang yun. Again, I said, I don't want to sound presumptuous. Ako lang, I serve at the pleasure of my colleagues. We all do. We all do. Leadership positions are at the pleasure of the majority.
so sir, no need for loyalty check.
Alam mo, napapasalamat nga ako sa kanila. In the last week of session, nakita niyo yung voting natin? Over 20 plus yung votes in favor. There are bills pa 24, unanimous. 24 votes in favor of certain bills. And then, yung mga majority-led bills like Maharlika, 19. Yung iba, 20, 21. So, makikita mo na solid yung majority namin. We have a solid supermajority.
Sir, isa na lang. May comment lang si former Senate President Melon. Parang nanawagan siya sa inyo na because nababalitaan daw niya masyado kayong mabait.
Nag-usap na kami ni Senator Drilon.
Ano?
Nag-usap kami. If you notice, I did not react. I do not react because I highly respect the advice of Senator Drilon. Mahal na mahal ko yan. And so, pag hindi po ako napiko nung sinabi po niya yun, I took it as a payo ng mas nakakatandang kapatid. And then I messaged him, I said, I told him in my message, sa may phone ko, I told him in my message, I acknowledge, sure.
Even SP Soto, sir, said na sobra ka daw mabait.
Nag-usap na rin kami ni SP Soto
SP
nung
Soto.
binento ko sa kanya. Sabi ko, iba lang yung estilo ko at the time. Yung issue na yun, yung video ng aking mahal na kaibigan ni Senator Estrada, Senator Ejercito and Senator Robin Padilla, unfortunately, I stepped out of the session for again, tao lang naman po tayo, kailangan din natin kumain, kailangan din tayo magwiwi, kailangan din tayo pumunta sa CR, and this all happened when I was not the presiding officer. But hindi naman, it's also hard kasi, in fairness to Senator JV, when you're a presiding officer, you must have knowledge of rules and precedents, di ba? Kasalanan ko yun, I asked him to sit down, magwiwiwi ako, mag-CR ako, at
So, biglaan, sir, yun.
biglaan lang yun. So, I put him in that position and I apologize, my dear colleague, Senator JV. Kaya naman niya, he's the Deputy Majority Leader, but syempre, the presiding officer ang mahalaga dyan. But as I said, I'm only human, that I also have to take a short break each time. Pabasa ko lang kasi yung sinabi, I said, fully noted, I told Senator Drilon, I fully note your concern, Tito Frank. And I said, we will do better when we come back. Yun lang po.
Sinabi lang niya, it's about time na rendahan niyo na po yung mga kasama niyo sa Senado na nagkukulang po ng property po.
I'm sorry?
Sir, sinabi ni former Senator Drilon, it's about time that you express this measure at rendahan niyo na yung mga kasama niyo.
But I do. I saw a news report. Was it yours, Mian, or GMA7, or Channel 2, or... Pero I saw a news report where you actually quoted me saying about the noise. I'd like to remind my colleagues, may news item na lumabas, nakita ko yun.
Yung ba kasi, sir, sa public hearing?
Nasa plenary yun.
No, yung nga, isa
Oh,
niya.
sa plenary yun. And I said that I'd like to remind our dear colleagues that it is becoming to be noisy and unruly, that they settle down. So I always say that. But this time, I will be a bit more assertive. Ganun lang yun. I'll just be a bit more assertive. Yeah, be more assertive. Meron akong base, pwede kong i-FB sila, pero hindi naman pwede yun. Kaya ang akin dyan is I'll just be a bit more assertive. Iba kasi leadership style namin.
Amor and
Iba
then
yung
Macon.
leadership
Amor
style.
muna and then Macon.
Sir, balik
I also instructed the secretariat na pag may mga, alam mo kasi yung problema, revenge visit to the Senate. Di ba? Nung 2 years, wala tayong pasok. Ngayon, pag may session, ang daming taong gusto pumunta. So, punong-puno yung gallery, punong-puno yung sites. So now I instructed the secretariat to be, especially the Sergeant at Arms, General Angkan, sabi ko sa kanila, we must be very mindful of the rules and proper decorum on the floor. Kakasabi ko lang sa kanya this last week. And pag meron masyadong, ang plano ko na yun, pag medyo maingay dun sa likod, sa VIP section, I will suspend session already, even if there's discussions. I will suspend session so that our colleagues will know that medyo hindi na tama yung masyadong maingay. At the same time, it gives them time to discuss. Mag-usap na kayo for 5 minutes. Anong kailangan nyo pag-usapan? Pag start ng session, I will already make sure that I will call those who are unruly in terms of
Unruly.
unruly or noisy. Noisy, not unruly but noisy. Noisy behavior.
Okay, Amor.
Sir, balikan ko lang po yung sa Senate leadership. Sir, how did you feel nung narinig niyo po yung mga reports or nakarating sa inyo yung information about a Senate coup, yun po yung tinatawag. And then sir, is it safe to say that you were not unfazed kasi kinausap niyo po si Senator Jinggoy about it?
No, I had no feelings about it because again, I serve at the pleasure of my colleagues. Yung pagka-Senate President, 1 foot in, 1 foot out, ika nga yan eh. So, you're always ready to go in or you're always ready to come out. Ayoko naman sabihin, I was unfazed, sabihin nila, yabang ko naman. No, of course not. Ang akin dyan is, kung anong gusto nila, handa ako.
So with the statement of support ng inyong mga colleagues, 100% kayo yung SP sa pagbubukas ng session sa July 24, sir.
As I said, no, napapasalamat ako sa statement of support to my colleagues, but anything can happen between now and then. Ang importante lang dyan is marami pa kaming trabaho. Tutuloy ko pa yung ating minimum wage bill. Marami pa tayong paglalaban na para sa taong bayan. And of course, may LEDA kami next week. So we'll be discussing a lot of the priority measures. Yun muna, trabaho muna ako nakatutok. Kung leadership change, if they want, then so be it. Ako, willing naman ako. Maging ordinary senator.
Macon, and then Nympha, and then Danielle, and... Okay, Macon.
Okay. Medyo related doon sa question ni Amor. Sir, honestly, have you not felt threatened na baka magising ka na lang, hindi ka na Senate President?
Alam mo,
Although,
it's a state of mind, my
it's
dear.
mabait, super mabait ka.
It's a state of mind. Yung expectations mo, babaan mo. I mean ako, yung expectations ko, babaan ko. Para sa ganun, alam mo, nakatikim na ako ng resignation dito. 2011, August. It's how many years na? 13 years na to this date? This August? 3.
Nag-resign.
Almost 12 years. Nag-resign na ako sa posisyon. Natalo na ako sa eleksyon. So, ang akin, bonus na lang ito. Binigay na natin mahal na Pangulo. Mahal na Panginoon pa. Pangulo ng mundo. Pangulo ng kalibutan sa Bisaya. No? Pangulo ng buong universe, ang ating Panginoon. I've already gone through so many hardships politically. For me, if God says, take a break, take a break. If God says, if you have to work for the people, work harder. Ganun ang expectation ko. Kaya, I don't feel threatened, I don't feel sad, I don't feel shocked. Ang akin, I take it day by day.
So, are you confident?
For example, 2025, pagdating ng 2025, alam na ng staff ko yan. They all know, pag 2025, don't expect that we're Senate President. Sabi ko, alam na nila yun. Number 1, dahil may 12 tao na papasok, na senador na papasok na bago. Hindi natin malaman o kung sinong gusto nila maging Senate President. Kaya, I told them by 2025, expect that I'll just become an ordinary senator, depending on what my colleagues want to happen. In the end, they're going to choose the leader. If it is me, then thank you. If it's not me, it's okay. Thank you for the opportunity to serve you. Ganon din ang pananaw ko. Kasi siguro nagustuhan nila ako dahil wala akong ambisyon for 2028. Pagdating ng 2028, ako po'y mag-retire na.
So hindi niyo magagamit yung position?
I would be 25 years as an elected official, 30 years in politics. So tama na. It's about time we let the new guys come in. Maybe Gen X.
Gen X.
Gen Z. Gen Z na at millennial na. Iba na yung gusto nila. Siguro that's why maybe they don't feel threatened. Kasi I tell them, wala akong ambisyon. Wala. I'm not looking to do this to get higher office. Wala. I'm doing this to help the people. It is our generation, yung Gen X. Sinong Gen X? Raise hands. Marami tayo. Gen X. Wala? Ako na lang Gen X dito?
Sir, kami!
Millennial kayo? Ikaw? Uwi na ako.
Okay, Nympha.
Yung baby boomers, di ba? Yung baby boomers, pa-retire na po natin sila. They did their best.
Yes.
It's now the Gen X kami. Na kung we don't do our best, kasalanan po natin yun. So I'm just doing my best, but I have no ambitions in mind. I guess that's why they feel safe with me. Kasi wala naman akong planong higher office. I want to retire and relax and be with my children.
Okay, same issue. Nympha and then Daniel, meron pa? Daniel, related? Okay.
Pero sir, how would you assess or paano yung grado nyo naman sa Senate sa dito sa first regular session?
Very good. I have to say that, of course, my colleagues have all passed with flying colors. It's not the quantity of the measures, it's the quality. I think this coming July and August, September, marami kami ipapasa ng mga priority legislation ng ating Pangulo. That's why we're going to discuss it this LEDAC. Marami naman pending sa plenaryo, hindi lang inabot ng panahon na medyo nakupos tayo sa panahon. So, kinapos tayo sa panahon. So, I think we'll even do much better this second regular session.
So sir, assessment mo naman sa first year ni PBBM?
Oh, I think he's doing a very fine job. If you ask me for a grade, 8 out of 10, I give the President 8 out of 10. Number one, napakasipag niya. From day one, he started his mandate running. He started it running. Of course, he's being hounded by inflationary problems, problems of high cost of goods, high cost of food and fuel, some of which was beyond his control. Yung fuel was about Ukraine and the Russian war, which again also added to the inflationary cost of food. So he's doing his best. He's doing his best. Kaya dapat suportahan natin ng ating Pangulo. I think we're all in one boat. We're just in one ship. If you want to support the ship, let's help it move forward and move towards achieving poverty alleviation for our people. When it comes to legislation, we in the Senate are ready and willing to support the President's legislative agenda.
So sir, do you think naka-deliver yung Congress dun sa mga request ni PBBM dun sa first SONA na mga legislative measures?
Well, marami kasi yun eh. You have to remember, he asked over 20 plus priority measures. And that's a lot. Alam mo, we're not in the habit of just passing without studying, especially here in the Senate, as it's the last bastion of democracy. We feel that we have to study the measures intently. And the chairpersons have. Palagi namin silang i-remind. For example, the chairpersons, like when it comes to Virology Institute and the creation of the Centers for Disease Control, si Senator Pia Cayetano is on that. And I last meeting with her, she said she's clarifying lang particular provisions with the DOH. Nagkakaroon kasi ng turf war eh. DOST tsaka DOH, hindi sila magkasundo. Kaya sabi ko kay Senator Pia Cayetano, as chairperson, make the call. Make the decision. What is good for the country? Do not have to wait for the decision of the DOH and the DOST. Gawin mo na, sino yung magiging primary implementer or agency nitong batas na ito. So that's why medyo natagalan. Dahil yung internal problem then between the two departments on the creation of the Virology Institute and the Centers for Disease Control. So things like that, when we get back, kasi meron na yata sa committee report na ready at the sponsor na, and many other bills, all the important bills, meron na pong handang committee report, yung sa salt industry, yung sa PPP, meron din tayong committee report, maraming na-sponsor na. So I think the second regular session will be much more productive in terms of number of bills that will be approved by the Senate.
Okay, Nympha.
Sir, I have two questions po. Isa ay, magkakaroon po ba ng collective stand ang mga senator tungkol sa POGO? Kagaya, sir, nung past Congress, nagkaroon ng stand ng Senate against Isabong.
Yes.
This time po ba sa POGO magkakaroon? At pangalawa, alam po namin passionate din kayo sa issue ng West Philippine Sea.
Yes.
Ano po ang take niyo dun sa resolution ni Senator Risa Ontiveros asking the executive na i-push po na pag-usapan itong issue sa United Nations General Assembly?
Actually, on the second question, I already messaged Senator Risa Ontiveros, Senator Risa Ontiveros, that I am in favor of the resolution. So she has my support. Of course, we'll try to convince our colleagues pagdating sa West Philippine Sea, we have a united stand. When it comes to the West Philippine Sea, I think the Senate has a united stand on how we want to show our dismay over the continued intrusion of our neighbor in the north in our exclusive economic zone and what we feel is our territory, on the continued harassment of our fisher folk in the area. So I think the Senate is one in that. Or at least we have, if not unanimous, we have a supermajority vote on that. So I think wala tayong problema dyan na ipasayan pagbalik po namin sa July. After the State of the Nation address. Pagdating po sa pangalawang tanong, ano po ulit?
Sir, yung-
Pogo.
Sir,
Ay, sa
Pogo po.
Pogo. We also have a united stand. Na number one, the government should take control over these criminal syndicates. Napanood ko ulit sa news kagabi na meron namang, may na-raid at may tinorture, na kinidnap ng mga Chinese nationals. Matagal ko nang binabanggit yan. Pogo is going to be bad for the image of our country, and Pogo is going to be bad when it comes to tourism. Kasi lahat po ng mukhang Chinese matatakot na pumunta dito, whether it is Japanese, Koreans, or Chinese, Singaporeans. They'd be afraid if there's going to be a proliferation of this type of kidnappings with foreign nationals. So, I also support the move to come up with a final solution on Pogo. But that's the president's call. Nasa nasa PAGCOR yung susi dyan may pro and cons. May tao na nagsasabi yung legal dapat i-maintain, yung illegal tanggalin. Ang problema, minsan hindi mo na alam kung ano yung illegal at yung illegal. So, ang akin dyan, let's come up already with a final decision on Pogo if we're going to phase it out. Diba?
Total ban.
Pwede natin i-phase out yan. But the question, I think, is how long the phase out will be. So, yun.
So, sir,
So,
kasi...
lahat kami, pabor kami sa phase out.
Pero
Lahat
hindi
po kami.
outright.
Pero ang diskusyon na lang is, yan ba ay immediate? Or yan ba ay 2 taon, 1 taon, 2 taon? Parang yan ang diskusyon nung pinag-uusapan namin to sa lounge before the break. Diba? So, I think that is the decision that has to be made by the President.
Sir, pa-clarify lang po, kasi sa Ways and Means Committee po, kay Senator Gatchalian, ang recommendation is total ban. Kay Senator
Bato.
De La Rosa
Bato de
naman
la
po
Rosa.
sa public order ay regulation, sir, tight regulation. So, alin po yung merong consensus na po ba or growing consensus, sir?
Wala pa. Wala pa. Regulation is possible, but ako, if you ask me what the regulation should be, again, I have not made a final decision on this matter, but regulation should be, for example, it should be limited to certain sites. For example, 4 lang. Sa akin pananaw, dapat Subic, Clark, maybe Seza, and then yung Pogo, dito sa Pogo City ng Cavite. Doon lang sa 4 na lugar na yun. Kung meron po sa labas, illegal yun. Dapat clap down yun. Dapat hulihin yung mga yan. It's easy to monitor them kasi when they're in an economic zone. Kasi kung nasa economic zone po sila, nandyan po yung, of course, yung PNP, nandyan po yung BIR, nandyan po yung Department of Finance, mababantayan ng maayos yun. Pati yung inflow, outflow of the funds, mababantayan dun sa mga lugar na yun. Right now kasi ang daming mga tinatawag nating guerrilla pogo, yung nagtatago, kung saan-saan, Paranaque, may Alabang, may kung saan-saan. So if it's regulation, that decision kasi has to be made by the President.
Pero sir,
Does he want to continue or does he want to close? If he wants to close, then yung usapin is how soon or how long is the phase out? Diba? Pag sinabi niyang regulation, pag-usapan na lang natin paano natin ma-regulate tapos sa tingin ko dapat taasan din yung singil sa buwis. Kung gusto niya regulation, if he says mix, regulate natin, then we should come up with legislation that will really come up with better taxation, collection, and then limited to these areas, di ba? Tapos may periodic review of their employees. Ibig sabihin, sila ba overstaying? Sila ba illegal pagpasok? Pumasok sila, tourism, as tourist, pumunta doon, nagtrabaho doon. And then maybe increasing penalties also of POG-related crimes under that law. So these are legislation that will depend on the policy of the President and PAGCOR kung i-ban ba natin or ituloy natin. Which I cannot give you an answer, Nympha, sorry, kasi hindi naman ako member ng executive.
opo. Pero sir, magkakaroon po ba kayo ng parang resolution na maglalatag po kung anong stand ng buong Senate?
We have to get first the consensus of our colleagues kasi si Senator Gatchalian has one version, Senator Bato has another. So, syempre, mali-divide yung House nun. We have to discuss what is the, what would be the sense of our colleagues on that issue.
Thank you, sir.
Okay. Magwa 1 o'clock na, so pahabol na
Oo nga,
lang,
kain
sir.
na lang ako.
How do you find the new
I'm
tourism?
intermittent fasting kasi I'm supposed to, I haven't eaten since 8 in the evening.
Sir, how do you find... Sir, last na lang, how do you find the new tourism slogan, which is
Love
Love
the
Philippines?
Philippines.
Love Philippines.
I love it.
You love it, sir?
It's okay. Alam mo, personally, I would have been happy with the old slogans.
Yeah,
Wow,
yung Wow
Philippines,
Philippines.
more
Mas
fun in the
dating.
Philippines. But I spoke to my kumare, Senate Secretary Frasco, and she explained to me the rationale why they're moving for Love Philippines. Kasi they love the food now, they love the people, they love our smiles, they love our beaches. So that's why I love the Philippines.
So do you think...
Baka they can also find their love in the Philippines.
So,
Huwag mail order bride, ha?
so, sir, do you
Find
think,
your love in the Philippines.
so do you think effective, sir, yung campaign slogan na yan?
Yeah, it's all right. I saw their fun campaign ad. I mean, yeah, the campaign ad. It was fun. Okay lang yun. Ang importante dyan, yung message is clear and concise. At the same time, ang importante dyan, guys, ayusin nila yung infrastruktura nila. Kasi love the Philippines, pero I don't love the airport. Pagdating sa airport, stress ka agad, di ba? Ayun, nakita ko kahapon, dami-daming tao. Parang palengke. So, we have to make sure it's a convergence. Tourism is a convergence of the DOTR, DPWH, and Department of Tourism. Kailangan buuin nila ulit yan. Ginawa ni President Duterte yan, ginawa ni President Noynoy Aquino yan. Dapat, my suggestion is, itong tatlong secretary magkaroon ng convergence. In other words, one committee or one organization na palagi sila nag-meet. Kasi yung complaints natin kay Secretary Frasco, hindi po niya magagawa dahil it's about the airport, it's about the DOTR, it's about CAAP, it's about the port, it's about
dapat interagency din.
the roads, it's about the bridges, it's about the ports, because the people can't land on the port, they have to go into the beach, to go, and basa lahat ng gamit nila to go to a resort. So, they have to have a convergence. And that's the difference between Vietnam, Thailand, Singapore. Wala na, Singapore, I consider that first world. Hindi na natin competitor yan. Thailand lang, Vietnam, Malaysia. Isang agency lang sila, isang grupo that discusses the airport facilities, the transport facilities, the hotels, the roads, the bridges to connect all this. So, Love Philippines is all dependent on the downstream. Diba? Kasi magandang tugan yan, makita ng isang tao, di pa bumibisita sa Philippines. Wow, love the Philippines. Let's go, let's see what they're talking about. Pagpunta dito. Yung ilang, ano ba yan? Pag alis ko kahapon, may ano ako, hindi naman ako tech-savvy. Ano ba yan? Yung e-travel. Ano ba yan? E-travel. Paano to? Paano to? Tell my daughter. Stress na stress ako. Wala akong kasamang staff. Then, nagawa ko na. Nag-app ba yun? Or you have to keep renewing it apparently. You can't use the old one. Once you travel last year, you cannot use that kasi may pinadala na ako ng staff ko. Pwede ba to? Ay, last year pa yun, sir. Gagawa ka ng bago. Walang yan. Sa ibang bansa, okay guys, let me repeat. I was recently in Japan, I was recently in Singapore, I was recently in other countries. Walang ganun. Passport lang. Kung may form na ipipirma, yun lang ay bibigay mo. Wala nang iba. Wala nang yung tawag dyan, yung passport for vaccination. Wala nang vaccination. Passport, wala na. When you get there, just give your passport. Thank you, sir. Have a good day. Ganon kasimple ang buhay ng travelers dun sa mga bayan. Cambodia, we just came from the SEA Games. Ganon din. Pag ganon, have a good day, sir. Ganon. Kaya ang dami nilang bisita. Sa atin dito, paglabas mo sa aeroplano, may mga tao gumaganyan yung mga tao sa'yo. Bakit? Yung e-travel, gaganyan mo pa dun sa camera. Matatao, gumaganyan yung mga tao. Sandali. Tapos may mga travel warning na because of monkeypox, you must take out your jacket and hat. Makakatakot ka agad mga ganun. Dapat nandun na yun. Di ba? Pinapagin pa sa aeroplano because of monkeypox warnings, you must take out your jacket, your cap, your hat. Tapos in the plane, you have to wear a mask. Wala nang ganun sa ibang bansa. Pagdating ko kahapon, sabi ng Sir, sorry, but you all have to wear mask. Binibigyan kami ng mask. Alam mo yung mga foreigners, alam mo, Pilipino mababait eh. Okay, mask. Yung mga foreigners, nagugulan sila. Hindi matagal na sila hindi nagmamaskara. So bakit nakakatakot? Parang, why are we going to a country that has so much COVID? Kasi nakamask lahat.
So can they say love Philippines, sir?
That's what
the
that's my
situation.
point is. I like the tourism slogan of the DOTR, the DOT for the record. But they have to be supported by these agencies. Lagay mo na dun sa tripartite na yun, yung DOH. Sama mo na yung DOH. Kasi dapat wala nang mas aeroplano, yung mga e-pass na yan, e-card na yan, dapat wala na yung, dapat are you vaccinated? Kasi if you're not vaccinated, another proseso na naman. You have to declare when you go there to the airport. Diyos ko po.
Okay, last 3 questions.
Sorry, I'm just coming out with my frustration.
Okay. Mayan, JC, and then Harleen. O, last na yon.
Sir, last na lang sa akin.
See you, my dear.
So,
Same yan.
on tourism, sir, do you think why it's becoming difficult for the Philippines to build its own image? Kasi pabago-bago rin tayo talaga, sir. Starting with the slogan from it's more fun in the Philippines, wow, Philippines. Tapos ngayon na naman, sir.
Actually, it has nothing to do for me, and with due respect, it has nothing to do for me on the image of the Philippines. The image will improve if the government and its facilities will improve.
Yeah.
Di ba? Wala naman ako narinig slogan ng Thailand, pero gusto ko pumunta ng Thailand.
Correct.
Sir, yung Malaysia, truly Asia.
Pero Malaysia lang yun. Pero yung mga ibang countries like Cambodia, they're having a higher tourism influx to us. They don't have tourism slogans. It's just that when you go to Cambodia, it's easy to get a guide, a van,
Yung
mura lang.
convenience.
Yung hotel, napakarami, convenience. I think it's not just the imaging, it's really the experience.
The experience.
Experience in the airport, sir.
Well, that's the first experience that you will see.
Stay.
It's the first experience that you will see. Di ba, pagdating mo sa ibang bansa, unang sinasabi mo, kung
Ganda ng
gundo naman ang airport nila.
Ang ganda ng CR nila.
Di ba yung Thailand, or sa Singapore, ang linis-linis na ito, banyo nila. Di ba, it's the experience. So, my point is, the DOTR can come up with the best slogans, they can hire the best teams to come up with the best packages, pero pagdating dito, pagpalpakan DOTR,
Kahit ang ganda ng
pagpalpakan
slogan.
DPWH, ay, nako.
Kahit ang ganda ng slogan.
Kahit ganda ng slogan, di na babalik sa Pilipinas yun.
Sir, isa na lang.
Wala nang love yun.
Sir, yung pagiging SP nyo, isang taon na rin kayo, sir. Can you tell us lang, sir, how difficult, how easy it was, Panginoon? Ay, ba? How easy it was for you to accomplish the mission, please your colleagues, and at the same time accommodate Malacanang?
I think it wasn't that difficult. I have a supermajority that's very cooperative, very supportive. Iba nga ang style namin, we consult. I think they appreciate the fact that before we come up with a measure on the floor, nag-uusap muna kami sa lounge, pinag-uusapan namin yung pros and cons. And I think I have a good working relationship with Senator Coco Pimentel, the minority floor leader. I've been very transparent with Senator Coco. I tell him if we need to pass it already or we can continue discussing the measure. And in fairness to the minority, Senator Coco Pimentel and Senator Rizal Tiveros, they've been very cooperative when it's bills, happy bills that are good for the country, support naman po sila. I think it's only Maharlika, I think that they had a big problem with, which we respect their position as the minority. But akin dyan is, we have a good working relationship with minority and the supermajority. Of course, the output may be different from the House of Representatives. It's because we value quality rather than quantity, and we're trying to make sure that we do not have any more of these honest mistakes or honest oversights. So that's why napakalaga na talagang binabantayan itong mga panukalang ito with a fine-tooth comb. So thank you very much, guys. It's good to see
JC daw,
everyone.
sir, JC pa.
Ay, JC.
Bombo.
Basta radyo.
Bombo.
Bombo. Sanay ako dyan sa probinsya.
O, JC.
Yes, JC.
Sir, just a follow-up question regarding na po sa 1 year Sir, binigyan niyo po siya
Ano yung 1 year?
Ni PBBM.
Okay, yes.
8/10. Sir, I would just like to ask yung areas for improvement ng Pangulo and also ano yung mga sector pa na dapat na tutukan ng Pangulo kasi sir, according to Senate President Pro Tempore na parang 1 year na hindi
Sa agriculture.
secretary ko. So dapat
I think kailangan niya mag-focus muli on, tuloy niya itutok yung, tutukan yung agriculture sector. Remember that rural development is the key to uplifting poverty. Yung pinakamalaking poverty rates natin ay nasa rural areas. So, sa cities, medyo okay na. Pero kung in-average out mo yan, tataas ang ating poverty rates dahil sa lack of development on the rural sector, which is basically 90% agriculture. So, kailangan po niyang ayusin yung value chain, kailangan niya ayusin yung concept na farm to table para wala ng middlemen, para lalo kumita po ang ating mga magsasaka. Alam mo, gawain to ng Vietnam, gawain ng Thailand. Nung pagbisita ko po sa kanila at nag-study tour po kami dyan ng agriculture, ang concept nila is farm to table. Paano nilang mailapit ang consumers, whether it's restaurants, hotels, catering services, or the people itself, to the farmers with their products para yung presyo hindi nadadaan ng middlemen at wala na pong hoarding, wala na pong price manipulation. So, yung value chain, yung ginagawa niya kadiwa centers na yun, napakaganda niyan. Ituloy po niya yung kadiwa centers na yan. And if he can move it to all parts of the Philippines, right now it's only in selected parts, they should put it in Mindanao, the Visayas, and Luzon. I think he should carve out part of the Department of Agriculture to focus on kadiwa centers. Para sa ganun, meron pong bentahan ng ating mga magsasaka na magandang presyo, pero hindi naman mabigat sa ating mga consumers.
Mura.
So that way, mura pa rin siya, pero happy yung mga magsasaka. On other issues, I think labor, again, I think the President should look into possible increase in labor, yung tinatawag natin na minimum wage. Napakababa. Tanungin mo yung kababayan po natin na yun, they're all miserable. They all have work. Mind you, our unemployment rates are very low, but they're miserable because they're not happy. They're living in, they're surviving. They're living on a poverty wage. So, we need to look at that. I think pag tinaas po natin ang konting sweldo ng taong bayan, you will feel the sentiment. Mas happy ang tao, mas nakaka-Jollibee, mas labas kasama ng pamilya nila. It will also mean more purchasing, more buying of local products and goods. So there's a domino and multiple effect to that. So I think they should focus on that, on how we can increase the wages of our people, how we can push for the farmers to be able to increase their yield, at the same time increase their profit, at the same time cheaper goods and food for the people. So yan ang dapat tutukan ng ating Pangulo na yun, and we're ready to support.
So dapat ipasa na yung 145 peso legislated rule.
Dapat.
Sir, habol, last na lang talaga. Si Harleen, last na lang.
SP, hello po, good afternoon,
Harleen.
SP Harleen po from UNTV. SP, any
yes,
comment
yes,
lang, being nakasama niyo po sa Unity Ticket, any comments sa appointment ni Larry Gadon as Presidential Advisor on Poverty Alleviation? And
No comment.
SP, your colleague po, SP. SP, si Senator Risa
So,
po.
I had worked with him during our campaign for the Unity. Marami siyang magagandang idea kung paano maiangat ang kabuhayan ng ating mga kababayan. Let's give him a chance. Anyway, hindi naman dadaan sa commissioner appointments yung appointment niya. It's a presidential advisor. Allow him to advise the president. The president's full trust and confidence. So the president said, he has already said that he will continue to retain the services of Sir Gadon, Mr. Gadon, Sir Larry. So, it's the President's prerogative, not mine. It's not mine. Inquire, nagtatanong, delikado.
Sir.
No. Astar. No comment. Let's eat na, guys. Thank you. Ay, hindi pa.
Sir, habol pa.
Sir, di ba asintado rin kayo, tsaka mahilig din kayong bumaril?
Yes.
Anong masasabi? Sir, pwede ba namin malaman kung...
Yes, I'm an
ilan
avid
yung-
shooter. I'm a pro-gun advocate. Yes.
Pwede malaman, sir, kung ilan yung baril ninyo and anong tingin nyo dun sa kay Senator Robin Padilla na may more than 10?
I mean, for the record, alam naman ng PNP to, I'm a class 5 collector. So marami din akong mga baril. Pero I try to make it a point that I don't show my firearms in public kasi syempre may tao din na anti-gun, di ba? So, but I respect him. He's a shooter. mahilig din siyang bumaril. Nainggit nga ako sa mga baril niya. Iba dyan, wala sa akin, wala po akong ganyan. So it's okay. I mean, I'm a pro-gun legislator, so I have no comments about it.
Okay.
Di ba merong mga
As long as all his documentation is,
Documented
is
naman.
complete. Yeah.
so meron din kayo na mahaba?
Yeah, since matagal na. Kasi I shoot, I'm the PCC shooter, pistol carbine shooter, so meron din ako mahaba. Nagko-compete din ako, so meron akong shotgun. But I try to make it a point not to show it on social media. Only when I'm shooting.
Okay.
Only when I'm in the range.
Sir, walang limit po ba sa civilians kung ilan lang,
Under the
anong
law,
klase lang yung baril?
under the law, may may criteria. So, I think sa lisensya, marami siguro sa inyo here, licensed gun owners. And the license, you can apply for class 1, class 2, class 3, class 4, class 5. Class 5 ako eh. I'm 5.
Ay, ano yung sir, pag 5? Pag
Or
5,
more.
sir?
Yeah. So, I've been a shooter since I was a young boy. Laking bukid doon kaya ako. Kaya doon na sa farm, meron na kaming 22 na parang cowboy, stuff like that. So, I grew up with guns all my life in the province. So, it's important there, you must be a responsible gun owner. Importante dyan, you must be a responsible gun owner. And a responsible gun owner has to go through proper practice and training. Kasi you also don't want to have an accidental discharge in your home na matatamaan yung pamilya mo, anak mo, ayaw mo yan. So, that's very important. Maraming sport shooters, and I must say this, the Philippines has several world champions. Si son-in-law ni Senator Bato, si Edsel Gino, may inaanak sa kasal, is a world champion, European champion now, kapapanalo lang niya. Si Viray, Khalil Viray, is world champion sa kanya category. So maraming Filipinos tayo na magaling na shooters. Actually, kung merong Olympic sport on shooting, gold medal tayo.
Okay.
For sure.
Okay. Sir, before we end, thank you, Scammer, for this cup, sir. Ayun o, meron ka din, sir. And for the lighting, sir. Hindi mo nakita. Si Scammer po yan. And then yung ilaw natin. Thank you, Scammer. Sino? Scammer. Sir, yun ang ibig sabihin ng scammer. Senate beat. Sino presidente nyo nga? Arman. Thank you. Salamat. Oh, legitimate scammer sila, sir.
Hoy, tuloy natin yung load ko sa inyo ng lunch or dinner.
Sir, ang tagal na nga nun. Nakalimutan na namin.
Hindi yata natuloy eh. Hindi, gawin natin all you can eat, ha?
Sir, ngayon naka-break na session.
Next week, let's plan it next week.
Ay,
Next week, wala kayo.
sir, yung ledak nyo kailan yan? Anong araw yan?
Wednesday.
Wednesday next week. Okay.
Oh, picture tayo ng t-shirt.
Okay.